I've been to the zoo. Said I've been to the zoo. Hey, mister, I've been to the zoo!
What? I'm sorry, were you talking to me?
I went to the zoo and then I walked until I came here. Have I been walking north?
North? Why, I think so, yes.
Is that Fifth Avenue?
Why, yes, it is.
And what's that cross street there, the one to the right?
Oh, that's 74th Street.
And the zoo is around 65th Street, so I have been walking north.
Yes, it would seem so.
Good old north. But not due north.
Well, no, not due north. We call it north. It's northerly.
Well, boy, you're not going to get lung cancer, are you?
No, sir, not from this.
No, sir. Well, you'll probably get his cancer of the mouth, and then you'll have to wear one of those things that Freud wore when they took one whole side of his jaw away. What do they call those things?
A prosthesis?
The very thing, a prosthesis. You're an educated man, aren't you? Are you a doctor?
No. I read about it somewhere. Time magazine, I think?
Oh, well, Time magazine isn't for blockheads.
No, I suppose not.
Boy, am I glad that's Fifth Avenue there.
Yes.
I don't like the west side of the park too much.
Oh? Why?
I don't know.
Oh.
Oh, do you mind if we talk?
No.
Yes, you do. You do.
No, I don't mind, really.
Yes, you do.
No, I don't mind at all, really.
It's a nice day.
Yes, it is. It's lovely.
I've been to the zoo.
Yes, I think you said so, didn't you?
I bet you've got a TV, huh?
Yes, we have two, one for the children.
You're married.
Why, certainly.
Well, it isn't a law, for God's sake.
No, of course not.
And you have a wife,
Yes.
and you have children.
Yes, two.
Boys?
No, girls, both girls.
Oh, but you wanted boys.
Well, naturally every man wants a son,
But that's the way the cookie crumbles.
I wasn't going to say that.
And you're not going to have any more kids, are you?
No more. Why did you say that? How would you know about that?
The way you cross your legs, perhaps? Something in the voice? Maybe, and I'm just guessing. Is it your wife?
That's none of your business. Do you understand? Well, there will be no more children.
That is the way the cookie crumbles.
Yes, I guess so.
Do you mind if I ask you questions?
Not really.
I'll tell you why I do it. You know, I don't talk to many people except to say, like, give me a beer, or where's the John, or what time does the future go on, or keep your hands to yourself, buddy. You know, things like that.
I must say, I don't...
But every once in a while, I like to talk to somebody, really talk, like to get to know somebody, know all about them.
And am I the guinea pig for today?
Oh, on a sun-drenched Sunday afternoon like this, who better than a nice married man with 2 daughters and a dog? No? Two dogs. No dogs, huh? That's a shame, but you look like an animal man. Cats? Cats! Oh, but that can't be your idea. No, sir. Your wife and daughters? Is there anything else I should know?
There are 2 parakeets, one for each of my daughters.
Birds!
Yes, my daughters keep them in the cage in their bedroom.
Do they carry disease, the birds?
I don't think so.
Well, that's too bad. If they did, you could set them loose in the house and the cats would eat them and die, maybe. What else? What do you do to support your enormous household?
I have an executive position with a small publishing house. We publish textbooks.
Oh, that sounds very nice. What do you make?
And now look here.
Oh, come on!
Well, I make around $200,000 a year, but I don't carry more than $40 on me at any one point in time in case you're a hold-up man.
Where do you live? Oh, look, I'm not going to rob you. I'm not going to kidnap you or your parakeets or your cats or your daughters.
I live between Lexington and 3rd Avenue on 74th Street.
Well, that wasn't so hard, was it?
I didn't mean to seem a... It's just that you don't really carry on a conversation. You just ask questions. Why do you just stand there?
Say, what's the dividing line between upper middle class and lower upper middle class?
My dear fellow, I...
Don't my dear fellow me.
Was I patronizing? I believe I was. I'm sorry, but you see, your questions about the classes bewildered me.
And when you're bewildered, you become patronizing?
I don't express myself too well sometimes. I'm in publishing, not writing.
So be it.
No.
Truth is, I was being patronizing.
Oh, now you needn't say that.
All right. Who are your favorite writers? Baudelaire and Stephen King?
Well, I like a great many writers. I have a great catholicity of taste, if I may say so. Both of those two men are fine, each in his own way. Baudelaire, of course, is by far the finer of the two, but Stephen King has managed to...
Skip it.
Sorry.
Do you know what I did before I went to the zoo today? I walked all the way up Fifth Avenue from Washington Square, all the way.
Oh, you live in Greenwich Village?
No, I don't. I took the subway down to the village so I could walk all the way up Fifth Avenue to the zoo. It's one of those things a person has to do. Sometimes a person has to go a very long distance out of his way to come back a short distance correctly.
I thought you lived in Greenwich Village.
What are you trying to do, make sense of things? Bring order? The old pigeonhole bit? Well, that's easy, and I'll tell you. I live in a 4-story brownstone grooming house on the Upper West Side between Columbus Avenue and Central Park West. I live on the top floor, rear west. It's a laughably small room. And one of my walls is made up of beaver board. And this beaver board separates my room from another laughably small room. So I assume that the two rooms were once one room. A small room, but not necessarily laughable. And the room beyond the beaver board wall is occupied by a colored queen who always keeps his door open. Well, not always. Always when he's plucking his eyebrows, which he does with Buddhist concentration. And this colored queen has rotten teeth, which is rare, and a Japanese kimono, which is also pretty rare. And he wears this kimono to and from the John in the hall, which is pretty frequent. I mean, he goes to the John a lot. He never bothers me. He never brings anyone up to his room. All he does is pluck his eyebrows and wear his kimono and go to the John. Now, the two front rooms of my floor, they're a little bit larger, I guess. But they're pretty small, too. There's a Puerto Rican family in one of them, a husband and a wife and 2 kids, I don't know how many, and these people entertain a lot. And the other front room, there's somebody living there, but I don't know who it is, and I've never seen them, never, ever.
Why do you live there?
I don't know.
Doesn't sound like a very nice place where you live.
Well, no, it's not an apartment on the East 70s, but then again, I don't have 1 wife, 2 daughters, 2 cats, and 2 parakeets. What I do have, I have toilet articles, a few clothes, a hot plate that I'm not supposed to have, a can opener, one that works with a key, you know, a knife, 2 forks, 2 spoons, 1 small, 1 large, 3 plates, a cup, a saucer, a drinking glass, 2 picture frames, both empty, 8 or 9 books, a pack of pornographic playing cards, you know, regular deck, an old Western Union typewriter that prints nothing but capital letters, and a small strong box without a lock, which has in it what? Rocks! Some rocks, some sea-rounded rocks I picked up on the beach when I was a kid, under which, weighed down by the rocks, are some letters. Some please letters, please why don't you do this, and please what will you do that, and some when letters too. When will you write, when will you come, when? These letters are from more recent years.
Yep, about the 2 empty picture frames.
Well, I don't see why they need any explanation at all. Isn't it clear? I don't have pictures of anyone to put in them.
Your parents, perhaps a girlfriend.
Oh, you're a very sweet man, and you're possessed of a truly enviable innocence, but good old mom and good old pop are dead, you know. Yes, I'm broken up about it too. I mean, really. But that particular vaudeville act is playing the cloud circuit now, so I don't see why I need to look at them all neat and framed. Besides, or rather to be pointed about it, good old mom walked out on good old pop when I was 10 and a half years old. She embarked on an adulterous turn of our southern states. a journey of about a year's duration. Her most constant companion, among many others, was a Mr. Barleycorn. At least that's what good old Pop told me after he went down and came back and brought her body north. We received news between Christmas and New Year's, you see, that good old Mom had parted with the ghost in some dump in Alabama, and without the ghost, she was less welcome. I mean, what was she, a stiff? A northern stiff? Well, at any rate, good old Pop celebrated the new year for about an even 2 weeks, and then slapped in front of a somewhat moving city omnibus, which sort of cleaned things out family-wise. Well, no, there was Mom's sister, who was given neither to sin nor consolations of the bottle. I moved in on her, and my memory of her is slight, excepting I remember still that she did all things dourly. Sleeping, eating, working, praying. She dropped dead on the stairs of her apartment, and my apartment then too, on the afternoon of my high school graduation. A terribly Middle European joke, if you ask me.
Oh my.
Oh, you're what? Oh, but that was a long time ago, and I have no feeling about any of that I care to admit to myself. Perhaps you can see, though, why good old Mom and good old Pop are frameless. What's your name? Your first name?
I'm Peter.
I forgot to ask you. I'm Jerry.
Hello, Jerry.
And now, let's see. What's the point of having a girl's picture, especially in 2 frames? You know, I have 2 picture frames, you remember. See, I never see the pretty little ladies more than once, and most of them wouldn't be caught in the same room with the camera, so I wonder if that's sad.
The girls?
No. I wonder if it's sad that I never see the ladies more than once. I've never been able to have sex with, or how is it put, make love to anybody more than once. You know, once, that's it. Wait. For a week and a half, when I was 15, I hung my head in shame that puberty was late. I was a homosexual. I mean, I was queer, with bells ringing and banners snapping in the wind, and for those 11 days, I met at least twice a day with the superintendent's son, a Greek boy, whose birthday was the same as mine, except he was a year older. I think I was very much in love. Maybe just with sex. But that was the jazz of that very special hotel, wasn't it? And now, ho boy, now do I love the ladies, just really love them for about an hour.
Well, it seems perfectly simple to me.
Look, are you going to tell me to get married and have parakeets?
Forget the parakeets and be single if you want. It's no business of mine. I didn't start this conversation.
All right, I'm sorry, all right? You're not angry.
No, I'm not angry.
Good. You know, it's interesting that you asked me about the picture frames. I thought you would have asked me about the pornographic playing cards.
I've seen those cards.
Well, that's not the point. I suppose when you were a kid, you and your pals passed them around. Or I'll bet you had a pack of your own.
I guess a lot of us did.
And you threw them away just before you got married.
Oh, now look here, I didn't need anything like that once I got older.
No.
I'd rather not talk about these things.
Well, so don't. Besides, I wasn't trying to plumb your post-adolescent sexual life in hard times. What I wanted to get at is the value difference between pornographic playing cards when you're a kid and pornographic playing cards when you're older. It's that when you're a kid, you use the cards as a substitute for the real experience. And when you're older, you use the real experience as a substitute for the fantasy. But I imagine you'd rather hear about what happened at the zoo.
Ah, yes, the zoo. That is, if...
Well, let me tell you why I went. Well, let me tell you some things. I told you about the 4th floor of the rooming house where I live. I think the rooms are better as you go down floor by floor. Well, I guess they are. I don't know. I don't know any of the people on the 3rd or the 2nd floor. Wait. I do know that there's a lady living on the 3rd floor in the front. I know because she cries all the time. Whenever I go out or come back in, whenever I pass her door, I always hear her crying. Muffled, but very determined indeed. But the one I'm getting to, and all about the dog, is the landlady. I don't like to use words that are too harsh in describing people. I don't like to. But the landlady is a fat, ugly, mean, stupid, unwashed, misanthropic, cheap, drunken bag of garbage, and you may have noticed that I seldom use profanity, so I can't describe her as well as I might.
You described her vividly.
Well, thanks. Anyway, she has a dog, and I will tell you about the dog, and she and her dog are the gatekeepers of my dwelling. The woman is bad enough. she leans around the entrance hall, spying so I don't bring anyone in, and things and people. And when she's had her mid-afternoon pint of lemon-flavored gin, she always stops me in the hall, grabs a hold of my coat or my arm, and she presses her disgusting body up against me, or she keeps me in a corner so she can talk to me. And the smell of her body is you can't imagine it. It's somewhere in the back of that pea-sized brain of hers, an organ developed just enough to let her eat, drink, and emit. She has some foul parody of sexual desire, and I, Peter, I am the object of her sweaty lust.
That's disgusting. That's horrible.
But I have found a way to keep her off of me. When she talks to me, when she presses herself against me and mumbles about her room and how I should come up there, I merely say, "But love, wasn't yesterday enough for you, and the day before?" And then she puzzles, and she makes little slits in her eyes, and she sways a little. And Peter, and it is at this moment that I think I might be doing some good in this tormented house, a simple-minded smile comes across her face, and she giggles and groans and thinks about yesterday and the day before as she believes and relives what never happened. And then she motions to that black monster of a dog that she has, and she goes back into her room, and I am safe until our next meeting.
It's so unthinkable. I find it hard to believe that people like that really are.
It's for reading about, isn't it?
Yes.
And fact is better left to fiction. You're right, Peter. Well, what I have been meaning to tell you about is the dog, and I shall now.
Yes, the dog.
Oh, don't go. You're not thinking of going, are you?
No, I don't think so.
Because after I tell you about the dog, do you know what then? Then I'll tell you about what happened at the zoo.
You're full of stories, aren't you?
Oh, you don't have to listen. Nobody's holding you here. Remember that. Keep that in your mind.
I know that.
You do? Good. All right. The story of Jerry and the dog. What I'm about to tell you has something to do with how sometimes it is necessary to go a long distance out of the way in order to come back a short distance correctly. Or maybe I only think that's what it has something to do with, but it's why I went to the zoo today and why I walked north, or northerly rather, until I came here. All right. The dog, I think I told you, is a black monster of a beast. An oversized head, tiny, tiny ears and eyes, bloodshot, infected maybe, and a body that you can see the ribs through the skin. And the dog is black. It's all black. It's all black except for the bloodshot eyes. And yes, an open sore on its right forepaw, and that's red too. And oh yes, the poor monster. And I believe it is an old dog. It's certainly a misused one. Almost always has an erection of sorts, and that's red too. And what else? Oh, there's a gray, yellow, white color when he bares his fangs, like ah, which is what he did when he saw me for the first time, the day I moved in. You know, I worried about that animal the very first minute I met him. Now, animals don't take to me like St. Francis had birds hanging off him all the time. What I mean is animals are indifferent to me, like people, most of the time. But this dog wasn't indifferent. From the very beginning, he'd snarl, and then he'd go for me, and he'd get one of my legs. You know, not like he was rabid, he was sort of a stumbly dog, but he wasn't half-assed either. You know, it was a good stumbly run, but I always got away. But he got a piece of my trouser leg once. Look, can you see it right there where it's mended? I got that the second day I lived there. But I kicked free, and I got upstairs fast, and that was that. I still don't know to this day how the other roomers manage it. But you know what I think? I think it had to do with only me. It's cozy. So anyway, this went on for over a week. Whenever I came in, but never when I went out. You know, and that's funny, or I guess it was funny. I could pack up and live on the street for all this dog cared. Well, I thought about it up in my room one day, one of the times after I bolted upstairs and I made up my mind, I decided first, I'll kill the dog with kindness. And if that doesn't work, I'll just kill him. Don't react, Peter, just listen. So the next day, I went out and I bought a bag of hamburgers, medium rare, no ketchup, no onion, and on the way home, I threw away all the rolls and I just kept the meat. And when I got back to the rooming house, the dog was waiting for me. I half opened the door that led into the entrance hall, and there he was, waiting for me. It figured. I went in very cautiously, and I had the hamburgers, you remember, and I opened the bag, and I set the meat down about 12 feet from where the dog was snarling at me, like so. And he snarled, and he stopped snarling. And he sniffed, and he moved in slowly, and then faster towards the meat. Well, when he got to it, he stopped, and he looked at me. I smiled, but tentatively, you understand. He turned his face back to the hamburgers, smelled, sniffed some more, and then just like that, he tore into them. It was as if he had never eaten anything in his life before except garbage, which might very well have been the truth. I don't think the landlady ever eats anything except garbage. But he ate all the hamburgers, almost all at once, making sounds in his throat like a woman. And then, when he finished the meat, the hamburger, and tried to eat the paper too, and he sat down and smiled. Well, I think he smiled. I know cats do. It was a very gratifying few moments. And then bam, he snarled and made for me again. And he didn't get me this time either. So I got upstairs and I lay down on my bed and I started to think about that dog again. To be truthful, I was offended. And I was damn mad too. It was 6 perfectly good hamburgers with not enough pork in them to make it disgusting. I was offended. But after a while, I decided to try for a few more days. And if you think about it, this dog had what amounted to an antipathy toward me, really. And I wondered if I might overcome this antipathy. So I tried it for 5 more days. But it was always the same. Snarl, sniff, move, faster, stare, gobble, smile, snarl, bam. Well, now, by this time, Columbus Avenue was strewn with hamburger rolls, and I was less offended than I was disgusted. So I decided to kill the dog. Don't be alarmed, people. Don't be alarmed. I didn't succeed. The day I tried to kill the dog, I bought 1 hamburger and what I thought was a murderous portion of rat poison. When I bought the hamburger, I asked the man not to bother with the roll. All I wanted was the meat. I expected some reaction from him, like, we don't sell no hamburgers without rolls, or what do you want to do, eat it with your hands? But no. He just smiled benignly and wrapped up the hamburger in wax paper and said, a bite for your pussycat? And I wanted to say, no, not really. It's part of a plan to poison a dog I know. But you can't say a dog I know without sounding funny. So I said, a little too loud, I'm afraid, and too formally, yes, a bite for my pussycat. And people looked up. And, that always happens when I try to simplify things. People look up, but that's neither hither nor thither. So. On my way back to the rooming house, I kneaded the hamburger and the rat poison together between my hands, at that point feeling as much sadness as disgust, and I opened the door to the entrance hall, and there the monster was, waiting to take the offering and then jump me. The poor bastard never learned that the moment he took to smile before he went for me gave me just enough time to get out of range. But there he was. Malevolence with an erection, waiting. I put the poison patty down. I moved towards the stairs, and I watched. The poor animal gobbled down the food as usual, and he smiled, which made me almost sick. And then, bam! But I sprinted up the stairs as usual, and the dog didn't get me as usual, and it came to pass that the beast was deathly ill. I know this because he no longer attended me, and because the landlady sobered up. She stopped me in the hall the same evening of the attempted murder and confided in me the information that God had struck her puppy dog a surely fatal blow. She had forgotten her bewildered lust, and her eyes were wide open for the first time. They looked like the dog's eyes. And she sniveled and implored me to pray for the animal. And I wanted to say to her, Madam, I have myself to pray for, the colored queen, the Puerto Rican family, the person in the front room whom I've never met, the woman who cries deliberately behind her closed door, and the rest of the people in all the rooming houses everywhere. Besides, madam, I don't understand how to pray. But to simplify things, I told her I would pray. And she looked up and she said I was a liar, and that I probably wanted the dog to die. And I told her, and there was so much truth here, that I didn't want the dog to die. I didn't. And not just because I poisoned him, no. I'm afraid, and I must I must tell you I wanted the dog to live so that I could see what our new relationship might come to. Please understand, Peter, that sort of thing is important. You must believe me, it is important. We have to know the effect of our actions. Well, anyway, the dog recovered. I have no idea why, unless he was a descendant of the puppy that guarded the gates of hell or some such resort. I'm not up on my mythology, are you? Well, at any rate, and you've missed the $8,000 question, Peter, at any rate, the dog recovered his health, and the landlady recovered her thirst, in no way altered by Bow Wow's deliverance. And when I came home from a movie that was playing on 42nd Street, a movie I had seen, or one that was very much like one or several I had seen, after the landlady told me Puppykins was better, I was hoping for the dog to be waiting for me. I was, how would you put it? Enticed? No. Fascinated? No, I don't think so. Heart-shatteringly anxious. That's it. I was heart-shatteringly anxious to confront my friend again. Yes, Peter, friend. That's the only word for it. I was heart-shatteringly, etc., to confront my doggy friend again. I came in the door, and I advanced, unafraid, to the center of the entrance hall, and the beast was there, looking. And you know, he looked better for his scrape with the nevermind. I stopped, I looked at him, and he looked at me. And I think we stayed a long time that way. Still, stone statue, just looking at each other. I looked more into his face and he looked into mine. I mean, I can concentrate looking longer in a dog's face than the dog can concentrate looking into mine, or anybody else's face for that matter. But during that 20 seconds or 2 hours, we looked into each other's face. We made contact. Now here's what I had wanted to happen. I loved the dog now, and I wanted him to love me. I had tried to love, and I had tried to kill, and both had been unsuccessful by themselves. I hoped, and I don't really know why I expected the dog to understand anything, much less my motivations. I hoped the dog would understand. It's just that, if you can't deal with people, you have to make a start somewhere with animals. Don't you see? A person has to have some way of dealing with something, and if not with people, something with a bed, with a cockroach, with a mirror. No, that's too hard. No, that's one of the last steps. With a cockroach, with a carpet, with a roll of toilet paper. No, that's not hard either. That's a mirror too. Always check for bleeding. Always check for bleeding. You see how hard it is to find things with a street corner, with too many lights, all the colors reflecting in the oily wet streets, with a wisp of smoke, with pornographic playing cards, with a strong box without a lock, with love. With vomiting, with crying, with fury because the pretty little ladies aren't pretty little ladies, with making money with your body, which is an act of love, and I could prove it, with howling because you're alive, with God. How about that? With God, who is a colored queen, who wears a kimono and plucks his eyebrows, who is a woman who cries with determination behind her closed door. With God, who I'm told turned his back on the whole thing some time ago. Someday with people with an idea, a concept. And wherever better in this humiliating excuse for a jail, where better to communicate one single simple-minded idea than in an entrance hall. It would be a start. Where better to make a beginning, to understand and just possibly be understood, a beginning of an understanding than with a dog. Just that, a dog. Just a dog. It seemed like a perfectly sensible idea. Man is dog's best friend, remember? So the dog and I looked into each other. I longer at the dog than he looked at me. But what I saw then has been the same ever since. Whenever the dog and I see each other, we both stop where we are, we regard each other with a mixture of sadness and suspicion, and then we feign indifference. We walk past each other safely. We have an understanding. It's very sad, but you'll have to admit that it is an understanding. We had made many contacts, many attempts at contact, and we had failed. The dog has returned to his garbage, and I to solitary but free passage. I have not returned. I mean to say I have gained solitary free passage. If that much further loss can be said to be gained, I have learned that neither kindness nor cruelty by themselves, independent of each other, creates any effect beyond themselves. And I have learned that the two combined together at the same time are the teaching emotion. And what is gained is loss. And what has been the result? The dog and I have attained a compromise. More of a bargain. We neither love nor hurt, because we do not try to reach each other. And was trying to feed the dog an act of love? And perhaps was the dog's attempt to bite me not an act of love? If we can so misunderstand, well then, why have we invented the word love in the first place? The story of Jerry and the dog. The end. Well, Peter? Well? Peter, do you think I could do that story in Reader's Digest and make a couple of $100 for the most unforgettable character you've ever met? Huh? Well, come on now, Peter. Tell me what you think.
I don't understand. I don't... Why did you tell me all of this?
Well, why not?
I don't understand.
That's a lie.
No! No, it's not.
I tried to explain it to you as I went along. I went slowly. It has to do with...
I don't want to hear anymore. I don't understand you or your landlady or her dog.
Her dog? I thought it was my... No, you're right. It was her dog. It was her dog. No, I don't know what I was thinking about. Of course you don't understand. I don't live in your block, and I'm not married to two parakeets or whatever your setup is. I'm a permanent transient, and my home is a sickening rooming house on the west side of New York City, which is the greatest city in all of the world. Amen.
I'm sorry. I did not mean to...
Forget it! Perhaps you just don't quite know what to make of me, huh?
We get all kinds of publishing.
You're a funny man. You know that? You're very richly comedic.
No, not really.
Peter, do I know you or confuse you?
Well, I must confess, this was not the kind of afternoon I'd anticipated.
You mean I'm not the gentleman you're expecting?
I wasn't expecting anything.
No, I don't imagine you were. But I'm here and I'm not leaving.
Well, you may not be, but it's time to go home.
Oh, come on. Stay a while longer.
I really have to get home.
Oh, come on. Peter.
What?
Listen now, listen.
What is it, Jerry?
Peter, do you want to hear about what happened at the zoo? Yeah, from the zoo.
Oh my God! I had my own zoo there for a while. Parakeets couldn't. I can't say it.
Yes, it was very funny, Peter. You know, I wouldn't have expected it, but do you want to hear about what happened at the zoo or not?
Yes. Oh, yes, by all means. Tell me. Oh, tell me about the zoo. Oh, I don't know what happened to me there.
Now I'll let you in on what happened at the zoo.
Oh.
But first I should tell you why I went to the zoo. I went to the zoo to find out more about the way people exist with animals. The way animals exist with each other and with people too. You know, it probably wasn't a fair test, what with everybody separated by bars from everyone else. The animals for the most part from each other, but always the people from the animals. But If it's a zoo, that's the way it is. Move over.
I'm sorry, haven't you enough room?
Well, all the animals are there, and the people are there, and it's Sunday, and the children are there. Move over.
All right.
And it's a hot day, and all the stench is there too, and all the balloon sellers, and the ice cream sellers, and the seals are barking, and the birds are screaming. Move over.
Look, you have more than enough room.
And I am there, and it is feeding time at the lion's house, and the lion keeper comes into one of the lion cages to feed one of the lions. Move over!
I can't move over anymore, and stop hitting me. What is the matter with you?
Do you want to hear the story?
I'm not so sure. I certainly don't want to be punched anymore.
Like that?
Ow! Stop it! What's the matter with you?
I'm crazy, you bastard!
That isn't funny.
Listen to me. I want this bench. Now you go sit on that bench over there, and if you're good, I'll tell you about the rest of the story.
Whatever for? What is the matter with you? Besides, I see no reason why I should give up this bench. I sit on this bench almost every Sunday afternoon in good weather. It's secluded here. There's never anyone around, so I have it all to myself.
Get off of this bench, Peter. I want it.
No!
I said I want this bench, and I'm going to have it. Now get over there.
People can't have everything that they want. You should know that. It's a rule. People can have some of the things that they want, but they can't have everything.
Imbecile. You're slow-witted.
Stop that.
You're a vegetable. Go lie on the ground.
Now, you listen to me. I have put up with you all afternoon.
Not really.
Long enough. I put up with you long enough. I put up with you because I thought you needed someone to talk to.
Oh, you put things well, economically, and yet, oh, what's the word? I want to put... Jesus, you make me sick. Get off of my bench.
My bench.
Get out of my sight.
God damn it. You, that's enough. You know what the problem is? You are a bum. That's the problem. You are a bum, and I'm not giving up this bench. If you don't move, I'm going to call the police. I warn you, I'm calling a policeman.
You won't find a policeman around here. They're all over the west side of the park chasing fairies down from the trees or out of the bushes. That's all they do. That's their function. So go ahead and scream your head off. It won't do you any good.
Police! I'm warning you. Police! I'm going to have you arrested. Police! I feel ridiculous.
And you look ridiculous. A grown man screaming for the police on a bright Sunday afternoon in the park with nobody harming you. If a policeman did fill his quota and come sludging over this way, he'd probably take you in as a nut.
Great, good God, I just came here to read, and now you want me to give up the bench.
Hey,
you're mad.
I got news for you, as they say. I'm on your precious bench, and you're never going to have it for yourself again.
Look, get off my bench. I don't care if it makes any sense. I want this bench to myself. I want you off of it.
Oh, look who's mad.
Get out!
No!
I warn you.
Do you know how ridiculous you look now?
It doesn't matter. Get off of my bench!
Why? You have everything in the world that you want. You've told me about your home and your family and your own little zoo. You have everything, and now you want this bench? Is this the things men fight for? Tell me, Peter, is this bench, this iron, and this wood, is this your honor? Is this the thing that you would fight for? Can you think of anything more absurd?
Absurd. Look, I am not going to talk to you about honor, or even try to explain it to you. Besides, even if it was a question of honor, even if it were, you wouldn't understand.
You don't even know what you're saying, do you? This is probably the first time in your life you've had anything more trying to face than changing your cat's toilet box. Stupid! Don't you have any idea, not even the slightest, of what other people need?
Oh, boy, listen to you. Well, you certainly don't need this bench, that's for sure.
Yes, I do.
I've come here for hours, for years. I have hours of great pleasure, great satisfaction right here. And that's important to a man. I'm a responsible man. I'm a grown-up. This is my bench, and you have no right to take it away from me.
Fight for it, then. Defend yourself. Defend your bench.
You've pushed me to it. Get up and fight.
Like a man?
Yes, like a man, if you insist on insulting me even further.
And I'll give you credit for one thing. You are a vegetable, a slightly nearsighted one, I think. But
that's enough.
You know, as they say on TV all the time, you know, and I mean this, Peter, you have a certain dignity, and it surprises me.
Stop!
Peter, we will battle for your bench. But we are not evenly matched.
Jesus, you're mad. You're starting me. You're gonna kill me.
Pick it up. You take it. You have the knife and we'll be more evenly matched.
No.
Now you pick up that knife and you fight me. You fight for your self-respect and you fight for your goddamn
Let
bench.
go of me. Help!
Oh, you fight!
Stop it!
Fight, you miserable bastard! You fight for your bench. You fight for your manhood. You fight, you pathetic little vegetable. You couldn't even give your wife a mouth shot.
It's a matter of genetics, not manhood, you monster. Now I will give you one last chance to get away and leave me alone.
So be it. Oh! 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 Jesus!
Oh my God! Oh my God!
Oh, Peter! Peter, thank you. Thank you, Peter. Thank you very much. I mean that. I came on to you. I came on to you, and you have comforted me, dear Peter. You better go now. Somebody might come by, and you don't want to be here when anyone comes. And Peter! Peter! I'll tell you something. I'll tell you something now. You're not really a vegetable at all. You're all right. You're an animal. You're an animal too. But you better hurry now, Peter. See? You better go. See? See? Hurry away. Peter. Wait! Peter! Peter! Take your book! Right here! Beside me! On your bench! Oh, my bench, rather. Take your book. Hurry, Peter. Very good. Now go, hurry away. Hurry away now. Hurry away to your parakeets for making dinner. Oh my God. Now we're going to invite our director, David Rook. And we will have our little...
Can I invite we have a small crew.
Oh, yes, definitely.
If the crew wants to join us, they're more than welcome.
We have
Invite him up.
2 people in the booth.
We got the chairs.
And Molly. This guy.
Between the bench.
I don't know.
Yeah, that bench is good.
Is that sturdy enough?
That bench? No, that bench.
Oh.
Oh, okay. Pulled us out of the booth.
Well, how are these guys?
Everybody's all set. Oh, okay. I like stools. Johnny Cochran's higher than the rest. Wow, a lot to unpack there, I think. This is our director showcase. I'm going to start with our director, David Rook, one more time. I'll ask the first question, then we'll just open up to people to ask questions of Dave or any of the actors or the crew. I guess my first question is, why did you pick Edward Albee's zoo story?
I like, well, there's some practicalities involved with it. Length was one thing. I've been talking with Evan, who is the artistic director here, and he said that I couldn't expect for one night somebody to memorize that monologue stuff, right? But Evan said it's been done as a staged reading, and we had some history with this particular story in that. So everybody remembers the lockdown, right? So about a week into lockdown, leading into, does everybody remember Quarantine E-Theater, or a lot of people? So leading into that, about a week into it, Evan wasn't working, and he messaged me and said, hey, you want to read a play with me, and maybe we'll record it, and I don't know what we'll do with it. And the play that Evan had in mind was Zoo's Story, and I said, yeah, that'd be a lot of fun. And so that was one of our first pandemic activities, and it was a precedent to starting a Quarantine E-Theater. So the opportunity was here. I love Albee. I don't know about everybody else, but
What do you like about him? His language, or
his language and his there's so many different references in that language. There's no fat in terms of his scripts. Every word is necessary in there. Every time I hear it, new things come to me. So
great.
yeah.
Does anyone have any questions they want to ask? Go ahead, Joe.
Yeah, a question for David. What was it like directing for your first time?
Well, it was interesting. I had a lot of fun doing it. The first thing I did was ask these two guys to be in it, and people that I've worked with in directing had told me previously that if you can get good people in your play, about 60 to 70% of your job is already done. And these guys were perfect.
So we pushed that down to 40%.
I had asked Evan first, and I knew he liked Jerry a lot, but and I said, well, do you have a choice about what you want? And Evan said, you're the director. And so I waited to find out who I had for Peter, and I just found Michael ideal for the role of Peter.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty good with managing things. I think that and this play was amenable to not having a lot to contend with. Technically less. There isn't a lot of movement on stage. Well, Evan did a lot of the movement. And then I brought in Molly as fight coach. After I read it, I'm saying, wait a minute, this could be dangerous for you.
Especially with a script in your hand.
And I wanted to look good, so and I had just seen seminar and had read the biography and had noted that Molly was the fight choreographer, so brought her in. So it's a good experience. I had a good time.
Steve?
What made you want to try directing? What inspired you to dip your toes into that?
There's a lot of stories that I'd like to see, done, and there's certain plays that I'd like to see done, and certainly this one. And the opportunity to do that is through a lot of the theaters that are around the Capital District, and they're not, to put them on, you can't. That's the way we do it, right? We have the directors submit a play, and so and as you watch plays and everything like that, I would have my own ideas, like say this looks good, and several people in the audience have directed me before, and I've learned a lot of good things from them, and I just thought I'd give it a shot myself.
Yes.
David, I'm wholly ignorant of anything having to do with theater, so I apologize for the question.
That's all right. I've known Eric since kindergarten. Maybe earlier.
And he says he knows nothing about theater. Is that what you said? You know nothing about theater?
Zero.
That's our audience.
You've taught him everything you know, David.
So he has a pure, unprejudiced view.
So you read the play,
Yeah.
and do you just kind of decide in your mind or picture what's going to be going on, and then you kind of tell them what to do, or do they come in and they read the play and they show you?
Both. Both, yeah. So we didn't actually rehearse here until a couple of weeks ago because there was another play going on. But I read the play, sent the play to them, sent the play to my crew. This is Nikki Light, Molly Warner, lights, fights, sound.
Lights, fights, is it?
So everybody gets a script, everybody gets a chance to read it and start thinking about it.
Watch out.
And then they came into my living room, and we read it once back in February, and then they came back to my living room and we actually put it on his feet because we could just turn the couches around and if you've been in my living room, it was so Evan came in out of the kitchen and then they ran the whole play from there. So
I went to the kitchen.
Hey, mister. I went to the kitchen. So they had ideas and I had ideas and we started mixing it up and then of course I think the process, Eric, is that all the people involved are like looking at it again as it unfolds. These two particular actors are very skilled at what they do, and so they were able to manifest a lot of the characters without being necessarily told specifics about what they might choose to do. But then we had some ideas too.
Yeah, no one person knows everything perfectly. You know what I mean? Like, I have ideas, David has his ideas, and somewhere in the middle is where the good stuff is, you know?
Better ideas.
Yeah. So it evolves the more you work on it as well. Like, there was stuff that happened tonight that I hadn't done before. It just, in the moment, something happens and you just go that way. So it's kind of an alive process. It's always changing. Even come show day, something will strike you in the moment, and you might not have expected it, but you go for it, and hopefully it works. And it's up to the director. I've directed before, and a lot of directing is sometimes a lot of it's telling your actor what not to do. It's not always move over here. It's sometimes don't move over there. Stay here. Plant your feet. Stop. Yeah, stop. Just be better.
Act, man, act.
One thing I did with this play, about my only really most positive contribution, if I had any, was that. So I was watching I watched productions of it on YouTube, and every production I saw had Jerry being overtly crazy. And they had Peter being sort of a nebbish, like hiding. And I said, no. And I said to Evan, I want him to come in. I want him to be normal and and then work with the words. And you listen to the dialogue. I wanted Peter to be confident. He was a publisher. He lives in the 70s. He makes a lot of money and things like that. And I wanted those kind of characters in the play. And I think working with that helped a lot in terms of their characters.
Again, kudos to the acting because the characters were. To listen to both of your voices are wonderful for the stage, and as bizarre as the circumstances are, they were believable. So I'm glad you saw something that you disagreed with and said, "Hey, I think your choices of the way they acted was great."
Right, and I don't think Albee wrote it for people to play
You
crazy.
don't want it to be cartoonish.
Right.
Well, because if he's too crazy, Peter just packs up and leaves.
Yeah.
So he
Yeah,
has,
what keeps
he
you
has
there?
to have some semblance of normal, and he has to be interesting in a way that compels Peter to just continue to sit there and listen to this mad hour and a half long diatribe.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, I tried to make him. I tried to find the charm in some of what he says, which a lot of times, if you've ever seen a production of this before, that doesn't come across. He's just wacky from the start to
Well,
the
the first
finish.
5 minutes, he's lovable.
And I tried to find certain, like, I don't know if bashful is the right word, but just kind of childish more than crazy in certain points.
Yeah, your craziness develops.
Yeah.
You're not crazy at the beginning. We're drawn into your crazy.
For example, how did you decide on the pace of the Jerry character delivery?
The pace of,
The face of the Jerry
of
character.
Jerry's delivery. I mean, so David's worked with me, and I often stress pace in production because there's nothing worse than going to a show and so you got to keep that in mind while being honest to the play. You have to earn the pause. You know, you don't want every line to have a pause, because then when you do pause, it doesn't mean anything. You want to boom, pause. You kind of want to build it. So keeping that in mind influenced a lot of my own personal choices. And then with, David's guidance, telling me, keep this part the way you did it tonight, or maybe this part can be tightened up a little, or take your time with this part.
The dog monologue, was that a challenge for either of you? Did it always sound like that, or did it come from somewhere? And not a criticism, but you did have to hold the book. I don't blame you at all for such a long monologue in this circumstances. If you did not have the book, would you do it differently?
I mean, it would be different. I don't know how much different, but it would probably be more alive, because I'd have both hands and I'd have a full stage and I could do, whatever. It wasn't, the challenge was keeping my place in the book during the whole thing. The actual characterization of it wasn't tremendously difficult. It's just, it requires a lot of energy.
Yeah.
So I'll be tired tonight, but in the moment, it was, I could handle it.
And as he alluded to earlier, every time you do something, it's different. You get different energies. You go in with different energy. You pick up energy from the audience. So you all of a sudden, as he alluded to earlier, you decide to read a sentence a little differently than you've done it before. And so, live theater is genuinely alive, because every performance, even though you're using the same script, is
Were your reactions different?
And this is our first time with an audience.
Right.
So we didn't quite know
Last time.
What lines would get a laugh. We thought, oh, this part's funny, but if they don't think it's funny,
laugh.
Yeah. So the audience, the cliche is that the audience is the third character, which is absolutely true. If I say a line and then there's laughter, I gotta wait a second to get the next line out, or it'll influence the way the next line says, because I got him now, so now I can do something now that I have them hooked in.
Go ahead.
This is kind of a naive thought, but you said that the previous versions were kind of cartoonish and not that real in the characters. And I just wonder, because there's real class, society, and cultural conflict here, is it possible that the earlier versions were afraid to really look at that clearly, and this kind of version brings it out more for us to just see?
I don't know, it's very hard to hear what
Basically, the other productions you had seen had been more cartoonish or more crazy from the start, and the social commentary is perhaps a little bit lost in those versions. Was that something you were conscious of?
Yeah, and was it?
Well, I wanted, I wanted the characters to be believable, and also the words that were coming out of their mouth. And some of them, the play happens very rapidly, and 1 minute you're listening to a line and thinking, wait a minute, what did they say like 1 second ago? And you don't get a chance to digest everything, but it's all landing on you. And if you're doing a cartoonish version, it just makes all those words just funny.
So it's a very serious dynamic.
It is.
So
Like for instance, that end thing where he's talking about this bench. Is this where you're going to die? Is this the hill you're going to die on? This iron? I mean, we make all kinds of things in the world and in our country and stuff. This bench, right? These two guys sitting on a bench. I mean, even that's one great moment of many in this play that can't be cartoonish particularly. I mean, it's real issues there.
Right, so, Mike, can you hear me a little bit?
You can pull your mask down.
Oh, okay. Can you hear me better now?
Better, that's better.
Yeah. So I'm just wondering, like, why would anyone perform this in a cartoonish way when it's such?
Oh, I don't know. I can't answer that.
I mean, I think the answer is that it's easier. It's easier to be nuts and be crazy because none of it's real, you know? So it's easy to just, you know, jump out and throw a newspaper. Like, it doesn't really mean anything. So that's the problem. Is when you're crazy from start to finish, we didn't go on a journey. We just witnessed craziness.
Is there any sense of what Albee would have preferred? I mean,
I don't know. I mean, he's got his writings about it.
When was this written?
It was around 1960.
It was originally written in '59. This was Albee's first play.
I was going to ask if it was before or after Seascape.
Yeah, this was his first play. This is about 20 years before Seascape.
But he made updates to it, right?
Yeah, so he did, you know, there's a reference to Stephen King, and
They updated.
he makes $200,000 a year, which in the original I think was $50,000. So Albee went back in the 90s, I think, and updated in adjustment for inflation.
Publishing pays better now, so.
Yeah, so Siobhan just reminded me, and thank you. So a couple years ago, I had directed an Edward Albee play called Seascape that David was in, and Nikki likes it. So, you know, David and I have an Albee connection. Siobhan was also in the play, and she was wonderful. So David and I have had this Albee connection for a couple of years now.
Yeah. James.
I guess I'm just curious because no one else will ever see this. This will not continue and go anywhere. But like, as this is kind of for everybody in a way, is if audiences were to see this, even us as an audience were to see this, what would you want someone to take away from this production?
Just how good I am.
We all do that every time.
That's a pretty thoughtful question.
Yeah.
It's like a young Jason Alexander.
It's interesting you say no one will ever see this. It's perhaps that's true, but I'm so glad we had this golden moment to see this.
No, that's magical.
This is, well, you know, I don't know that I would see a short Edward Albee play or even read it, but I'm saying, wow, I've got another play I've seen, and it's great.
And we saw it.
Anyway, yeah, that's a good question. What do you think people would take away with it?
If anything, I think that there's so many things that can be taken away depending on what parts you hear the most. But probably one of the more interesting aspects of the play, in a very, very short period of time, these people reveal a lot about each other. And I think one of the takeaways we have in leaving this is for probably a very short period of time, but for a period of time that these various people that we encounter have extremely rich lives that can go in all kinds of different directions, and that if we take some time to really appreciate them, maybe it wouldn't encourage you too much to probe, but nonetheless, it would give us an opportunity to really understand human nature and not just like automatons. Does anybody else have any ideas?
Well, I think, you know,
that's because you've all seen it.
This is the zoo story, and I think a big part of this is observation. And, you know, it's kind of like the train wreck. You can't look away kind of thing. Like, when you're at the zoo, there could be two animals mauling each other, and there we are eating our popcorn behind the glass. which is kind of what he's doing while I'm doing my monologue. He's just watching me like I'm some animal behind a cage, which normally you probably just get up and go, okay, thanks, buddy, and walk away. But since, you know, at the zoo, you would think two lions mauling each other, you'd get me the hell away from here. But no, you just, because there's a presumed safety. And you know, he's not just going to like hit me or kill me or something like that, so I'll stick around and see what happens.
Albee seems to be so interested in evolution too, in his different plays.
Yeah.
Seascape, even Virginia Woolf, which you and I performed a scene from. It's a theme of you know, how is mankind evolving, you know, or how much animal are we? Treat each other like animals. What does it mean to be more than that? It's interesting. I wonder if he studied biology, actually. I don't know a lot about him.
Yes, Joe. Mike.
Yeah, everyone's spoken so eloquently, and I really don't have much to add except that I remember reading this play many, many years ago, and I, you know, had not read it since, so I knew it was very confrontational, and I knew it got very violent. So as I was watching it, I really agreed with the way David and Evan and Michael portrayed, you directed David and Evan and Michael played these roles. There was this arc that was very believable. When Evan makes the entrance, he's extremely, this needy soul, you know, this person who wants to communicate. And he's eccentric in a way that is threatening. Is it Peter, your character's Peter, is that right, Michael? Is it Peter?
I'm Peter, yes.
Yeah, and so these two characters, it's very relevant. I mean, the play was written in 1958 or 59, first produced, and yet it's so relevant. I mean, people are living in their own worlds, their own little boxes, and if anything, isolation and that kind of thing is even more rampant now than it was even back then, probably.
I mean, we're all like this.
You know? And so, no, I just thought it was very moving. And when I first read it, I read it as it was kind of a cartoon. I did, when I first read it, you know, and there's obviously so much more nuance to this. And I thought everybody just really hit the marks really beautifully. It was really, really well done. And as far as the reading goes, even at the end with the violence starting to happen, that was remarkably good. I mean, you know, you have your eyes on the book, and yet at the same time, the tension and everything else was really working. It was very, very, I don't know how to say it, but I really, I'm just lifting me out of my chair watching it. So I really commend you all. It was really terrific. I really liked it.
I mean, there really are people in the world. I mean, if you take time, you know, that I don't know. Certainly in my life, I've encountered a lot of people who, you know, carry around a lot of stories and a lot of ways they interpret them. They don't end like this play, but I've had some encounters go strangely. So, I'm sure many of you have. So.
Yes.
There was such a change in the relationship when you started to tickle him. And I was curious.
Started to what?
Tickle.
Oh, yes.
And I was curious if that was in the play, was that something you chose, and how that felt, because it seemed like it just really really changed to the.
It's in the play.
It's in the play.
We did not invent that. These guys were remarkably good at it from the very first week.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't say at what length it goes to, so we decided to kind of play it up just a little. But yeah, that's in the script, and it's just one of those things that's just so strange, like tickling basically a stranger. It's just
A grown man tickling each other
Right.
without an exchange of money is unusual.
yeah, right.
There's a lot of sexuality in the play. There's a lot, of course, Albee was homosexual, and from the very beginning there's references to the west side of the park, my gentleman caller you weren't expecting, the the berries from the trees.
Pretty Little Ladies aren't Pretty Little Ladies.
Tickling is a highly sensual act. I mean, I don't know the last, one thing you can, to James' question, one thing you can take away, when was the last time I tickled someone or was tickled? That's a very intimate, very, very intimate scene. Even though it seems a little weird, but it really is.
It's so bizarre that the killing doesn't seem. I was ready for the flip of it, which was the violence. Too. It's almost a foreshadowing that something weirdness is happening now, right?
I mean, it's got a touch of absurdity to it, you know.
Yeah, that it does. But
And not all absurdity is necessarily comedy.
no.
You know, there can be absurd kind of, like, a lot of this play, the premise of this play is kind of absurd
Yeah.
by definition, you know.
But there's so much crazy in the world right now that this crazy could happen. I mean, people
Right.
shooting each other, you know, mass murders and things like this. People are crazy, and so this play was absurd, but I think could happen.
Right, this is not far from the potential of reality.
I loved that you played the characters more straight than comedic. I found that very powerful. And that we see them kind of at coming to breaking points. You know, the guy that's, you know, Peter that's kind of repressed, and you see some of that shell starting to erode with his exposure to this guy that just walks up. But I wondered whether you had a sense in playing that character that he had set up being killed.
Yeah, and set up being.
That he had set Peter up to kill him. I wondered, you know, because that's kind of a shocking ending.
Mhm.
And I wondered whether you had the sense that, you know, he was kind of baiting and antagonizing Peter, kind of pushing Peter's limits. And did he almost set him up to kill him? Because this, you know, Evan's character was obviously a sad guy. He was trying to connect with people. He couldn't figure out how to connect with people. He thought connecting with animals might help him. So struggling a lot in his life.
We had a lot of discussion and I'm not going to answer, I can't directly answer the question, but in the process, we did talk a lot about was this the first time that they encountered each other? Was this the first time that Jerry had at least begun a conversation like this? You know, I don't think this was entirely random, and it's for Peter. He's on this bench every week. I mean, has Jerry cased this before? I mean, has he? You know, these were all questions we asked, and you know, I allowed Peter and I wondered about Peter too. Why on a Sunday? Why is he there on a Sunday afternoon? We ask these kind of questions like why on a beautiful Sunday afternoon with 2 children at home and parakeets and 2 cats? Why is he here always on this bench reading? You know, where's the family? So there was like a lot of questions for them about these characters. And do you guys want to talk to that at all?
Well, yeah, I mean, we had talked about whether this was the first time that my character had done this, or and everyone else just walked away or stopped the conversation. He's the one that stays, and the grand goal of this thing would be some kind of suicidal mission kind of a thing. And you know, we deliberately in the fight choreography, I grab his arm and I shove it into myself.
By the way, is that written that way?
No, it just says he charges. Well, it's written that
you
he
run into the night.
Yeah, it's written that I run into the
So it
night.
is suicide.
Yeah,
Yeah, okay.
but it's certainly not aggressive act from him that
Right.
that does it. I got lost.
Well,
You're in
Jerry's,
Albany.
is Jerry's original intention to commit suicide from the beginning? Is this what he's, this is his way of doing it?
I
See,
mean, that's, I have never seen this, and I was looking up some of the reviews and what it's about, and he from the very, he said, he's taking, what is he walks a long way to
Sometimes you have to
find
go
the shortest
Oh,
distance.
yeah.
And he really wanted to be, away from the west side, because that's
He does talk
where
about
it's
killing a
really
lot.
seedy and it's rooming house, and nobody doesn't get along with people, and, he never has no real female relationships. I mean, he's miserable. He's really miserable. And, yeah, I say that he was,
That was his
that
intention.
was a thought in his mind, and when it wasn't going well in meeting this new character, this upper-class character, and in the end, it wasn't going well, he in the back of his mind, he had that knife, and he wanted to die.
Yeah, it was his original intention.
That's how I see it.
It's a very elaborate suicide
Now that you mention it, there are clues in his monologue that,
Yes.
you talk about killing a lot. You say, don't worry, I didn't do it. He's like, I was going to kill the dog, don't worry, I didn't do it. But that could be, I was attempted to suicide, but it was a failed attempt at suicide. So death is definitely somewhere in this. Foreshadow.
Strikes me how like it's like a crucifixion at the end, like a self-crucifixion, and then this Peter, you came unto me, sounds very biblical, and the idea that okay, I'm fulfilling my destiny now. You're here, so I can kill myself.
There's a lot of religious moments. With God was a colored queen.
Yes.
I have a question for Molly. Malls, how was it to block? Did you plan with book in hand? Did you as the actors try in any part to kind of memorize the lines revolving around the scene?
Sure. So that was kind of a bit of a collaboration. I came in kind of with a sketched out idea of what I wanted to happen, and with books being in hand and having to figure out how that would work, we had to be a little bit flexible with that. So it was a really good sort of collaborative process to figure out what can we do if we just have one hand while still making it readable to an audience and as
being this
believable as
close.
possible. Yeah, and getting squished together on a bench.
I'll also say that Molly's choreography was much better than what you saw us do.
Well, the pushing, the fight over the bench was perfect.
By the way, I pity the man who ever gets in a fight with Mike Schaefer. This guy is strong.
Brian.
Colleen, is this your first sound design credit? And
Well, actually, Tony designed the sound, but he couldn't be here tonight,
Oh.
so I said, well, I'll just run it.
got it.
But it is my first time running the sound.
Nice. Well, maybe you know whether he had to narrow down the song choice at the beginning, Lou Reed, or
David had very specific selection in mind, and so that's all was really needed. We had some park sounds in there, but just a little smattering,
Yeah, the Perfect Day song at the beginning was there. That was David was bent on that beginning and ending.
It's got the word zoo in it. I'm like, oh, zoo is my cue,
Which was a perfect day.
It was the perfect
And I got to spend it with you.
Perhaps that's a perfect way to end our little talk back.
Yeah, that's good.
Unless there's any other urgent questions or comments?
I want to thank everybody for coming.
You can still do a meet and greet out in the lobby if you want to. So thank you very much.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.